Good evening. I'm Olga Nesterova and welcome to the Valentine's edition of the Lite. Tonight we lovingly talk about the second impeachment. Without spreading rumors, conspiracy theories and emotions, we will dive into what happened and what ultimately didn't. We round it all up with the analysis of what it all means for us from now on. Let's go. We started this week with a set of mixed feelings. On one hand, we had hope that this upcoming trial will first of all expose the details of the attack on the Capitol and those who were either to blame for it or for not stopping it. On the other, well, we knew how this will end. And so the question remained, what excuse would they use to disregard the Constitution and redefine our democracy? See, the trial was not really about what is good and who is bad. This we knew. But mostly about how do we want to see our future? What would potentially become the new normal? After seeing the Senate vote on the procedures, we all went to bed excited to tune in, or not, no judgment here, to the second historic impeachment of Donald J. Trump. Impeachment Day 1. The impeachment managers and Trump's legal team presented their case on whether the Senate should proceed with the trial. The managers, of course, in favor, and Trump team, of course, not. 13-minute footage was all we needed to make a decision from our heart and our minds. 13 minutes of lies and anger that led to aggression, pain, loss of life, and destruction. Ultimately, only 6 Republicans voted to continue with the trial after watching for those 13 minutes how they personally were attacked. Trump was reportedly screaming and fuming over the lack of his team's professionalism after his pair of funky lawyers recited poems and expressed their compliments to the Senate as some sort of defense. Okay. Day 2. The impeachment management team presented their case for almost 8 hours. It was based on the actual tweets, posts, video, and phone calls recreating step by step and hour by hour the day of the riot. The evidence presented in the correct chronological order truly depicted a picture of insanity provoked and driven by a big lie that started way before the election. 6 months prior to November 3rd, then President Trump started planting the idea that if he loses, this would be only due to election fraud. He continued with his made-up theory until the very end. Well, in fact, he still has not accepted Biden as the new president, nor his fan base that by now more resembles a violent, clueless cult than any political party. Well, the session concluded with Republican Senator Lee stating that he was misquoted in the transcript of his phone call with Trump on January 6th, which wasn't really anything tremendous. He was more upset about that though, than the whole tragedy as a whole. Moving on to day 3. Democrats concluded their case presenting the facts on how former President Trump did influence the mob, what he did, and most importantly, what he didn't do during and after the insurrection. Altogether, impeachment managers presented a compelling case that didn't leave any aspect untouched. They played on the emotions and fear everyone had experienced that day. They showed a new security footage of Officer Goodman, whom later they awarded the Gold Medal of Honor, saving several senators personally by guiding them away from the mob, as well as saving the entire situation as a whole by directing the rioters away from the chambers. He was also later quoted that particular day he had to hear multiple racial slurs directed at him, which made him question whether this is the America he lives to protect. More videos, never-seen footage of senators being guided away from the chambers and former Vice President Pence and his family being directed to a safe location. Turns out the mob missed the House Speaker Pelosi by just 7 seconds. This is the tiny time that passed in between the last staffer leaving her office and the rioter trying to get into the back room they used to escape into. The mob kept screaming, banging, destroying, and vandalizing not just the federal property and the offices of elected officials, but the dignity of the American democracy at its very core. Impeachment Day 4. And so it was time for Trump's team to present their case as to why the Senate should acquit their client. They had 16 hours to fill. They used 2.5. One might say it's some super cool time management and efficiency, but if you watched and really listened, you know there was nothing cool nor properly managed. I would sum it up as a verbal diarrhea composed of some made-up facts. Insulting to intelligence, really. They kept playing the same video compilation of Democrats, mostly black women, mentioning the word fight to show that this word is, in particular, the political speech anyone could use. As if you could compare it to the angry white people ignorant enough not to accept that their cult leader actually lost the election, or the leader himself encouraging the crowd to, quote, fight like hell. This point was actually later impeccably addressed by the senator from Virgin Islands and the solid superstar of the impeachment trial, the impeachment manager Stacey Plaskett. Basically, their point was that the trial is unconstitutional, witch hunt, and political speech is protected. My question would be, though, as Trump's guys did show a lot of video compilation of Democrats using the word fight, why didn't they show their audiences rioting right after? Because that never happened? Truth is, Trump based both his campaigns on encouragement of violence and negativity. The videos they played were very much on brand. They sounded like propaganda and were a spit in the faces of those fighting for justice, equality, fighting for life. Once Trump's team rested their case, the Senate proceeded with Q&A where any senator could address either party or both. Trump's lawyers refused to answer all questions, especially those on when Trump knew about the Capitol riots and that his own VP, Pence, was in danger. It all went as predicted. The Senate called it a day, and then the shocker of the night. New York Times and CNN reported some new evidence. Republican Senator Jamie Herrera Butler spoke out about the phone conversation between Trump and Senator McCarthy. Remember the one who recently flew to Mar-a-Lago to kiss Trump's whatever? Yes, him. So Senator Butler reports that when McCarthy called Trump begging him to stop the riot during the insurrection, Trump said, I quote, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are." To which McCarthy screamed that the rioters were breaking into his office and asked Trump, "Who the F do you think you're talking to?" Now, drama aside, I know we love the aspect of reality TV when it comes to the former leader of the free world, but this conversation depicts Trump's mindset when it comes to the mob. He saw them as his people, patriots defending his presidency. I'm not sure who needs more information after this. At that point, you either were sure about your vote because you had common sense or because you lacked backbone. And the almost not so final day 5 of the impeachment trial. We woke up on Saturday morning awaiting this mock-up vote to be presumably to acquit Trump. And then the huge shocker came in around 10:15 Eastern when the impeachment managers called for a vote to call in witnesses. 5 Republicans, including infamous Lady Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, joined in, and so it was approved. Congress went on an extensive break to decide what's going to happen next. Their first witness seemed to be the congresswoman who reported the call between Trump and McCarthy. Also, Liz Cheney encouraged everyone, including former VP Pence, to come forward with anything he wants to say. The Congress expected to call on each witness individually or a package of witnesses to be called. Democrats wanted to subpoena the notes the Republican Congresswoman Butler took aside from the call she reported. This meant setting a new terrain and determining a new schedule, which was expected to delay the trial. Trump's team claimed they had a list of 300 witnesses, including Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, they wanted to call in. Then they reportedly thought of letting the Congresswoman Butler testify on Zoom, and then it all disappeared. That little hope, a glimpse into utopia, all gone. The Senate agreed to accept written transcripts of the call between Trump and McCarthy into the evidence and then voted to acquit Trump. Now, what does it mean? An acquittal signifies that a prosecutor failed to prove his or her case beyond a reasonable doubt, not that the defendant is innocent. So having all this detailed presentation by the impeachment managers proving that Trump was guilty, in fact, guilty, was not enough. You can't possibly blame them. 43 in favor, 57 against, 7 GOP senators joined the Democrats on the right side of the history, and yet it wasn't enough. 2/3 of the Senate votes were needed to make a decision. We can cry, we can scream, we can be confused why the Democrats folded when they held the majority and could possibly subpoena Pence and even Trump. But let's imagine Pence or Trump, for that matter. They testified under oath. What is the guarantee that they would be telling the truth and nothing but the truth? They actually never did that, so why now? Remember that Clinton's impeachment trial took 39 days due to the discovery and cross-examination which did not lead to any different outcome. So this most likely would have been the same in terms of the delays. Knowing the Republican flexibility when it comes to their spineless gymnastics, I guesstimate they would have used this tactic to mess up Biden's first 100 days in office by occupying the Senate, delaying the stimulus package, and the funds for the vaccine. Ultimately, Biden is judged based on his performance in those first 100 days and not based on Trump's impeachment results. And so, as sour as it may feel, perhaps the Democrats did the right thing. They would know best. We are just the bystanders. Minutes after the announcement of the verdict, Trump put out a statement once again declaring this whole thing as a witch hunt. And when he mentions this, I always ask if he actually knows that by using this phrase, he calls himself a witch, but whatever. He also stated that the following, I quote, "Our historic, patriotic, and beautiful movement to make America great again has only just begun." Now this is what we should be concerned about. Democracy comes from demos, in Greek, citizens, the people, and kratos, power or rule. It is a belief in shared power, not between the right and the left, between the people. So what you not condone, you enable. Trump's immediate statement showed you exactly that. His actions are legitimized. The hatred, violence, and distraction are not punished for. And let's stop with this impeachment of former elected official is unconstitutional and therefore they had no choice but. McConnell delayed the trial until Trump was out of office and then voted to acquit him because according to him, you cannot prosecute someone who is out of office. Spineless politics and some acrobatics. McConnell, Graham, Cruz, all of them. Don't forget that when you vote the next time. Regardless on which side of politics you end up, make sure to end up on the right side of the history, as the history will be the last to judge this impeachment, the acquittal, and everything else that might follow. Do a political cleanse and make up your mind. Thank you for watching Lite Night. I'm Olga Nesterova. Have a good night, stay safe, and see you next week. Happy Valentine's Day.